Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. We had a sunny morning and all my trees need watering, but there is a thunderstorm on the way. It's very calm out. There's no wind. It's very humid and muggy. So I'll keep watering, and if it rains, it rains. If it doesn't, all the trees will be watered nicely. Well, I got my barrel all topped up. It's good and full. The trees outside will be nicely watered today. It's kind of nice here in the greenhouse. Tomorrow night, our Kitchener-Waterloo Bonsai Society has a meeting, and I'm going to be doing a talk on succulents. So that should be a lot of fun. And I'll show some of the progression of some of my succulent trees, what I've done to them and how they responded and how to care for them. So that should be a lot of fun. It rained for a good steady 2.5 hours. So all my trees are well watered. And my water barrels are all topped up with fresh rainwater. So that's just awesome. Hello, how are you guys? Hello. Doing some climbing there, are you? Getting a little huffy. That's good climbing, fellas. That's good climbing. Yeah. Very good. Did you guys get some breakfast? Eh? Did you get some breakfast? All right, take her easy. It is the next day now and the sun is shining and it's warming up nicely. We had a really cool night last night, 14 degrees Celsius, so a little bit on the cool side. I actually put the heat on low here in the greenhouse. So I've got all the succulents out that I'm bringing to tonight's meeting. I've got some on the floor down here. I've got my baobabs. I think I'll just bring the big one. I won't be talking about Portulacaria afra because Jay from Blue Jay Bonsai is going to be talking about that at the next meeting. It's going to just be on Portulacaria afra specifically. So tonight I am just going to talk about succulents. I was a little worried yesterday. We had a sunny morning and I watered all my succulents really thoroughly. My baobabs and my Portulacaria afra and all the jades. And I try and time it. When I do the heavy watering, I do it on sunny days so they dry out a little more quickly. They use the water. And then we had that afternoon rainstorm and it turned cool after that and it was very damp. And that's not the right conditions. If you get too many days of that cool, damp weather without sunshine, you can start getting root rot on these succulents. So I was a little worried, but now, today, we have sunshine and warmth, so I can see that the baobabs are still moist from yesterday morning's watering. So they'll be definitely dried out by the end of today. Down here, I have the jades that I scarred the trunks up on, and they're still doing really well. There's a look at the trunk on the main tree. Yeah, it's doing quite well. Even some of these really deep scars are healing up here. So I'm going to let that kind of heal over properly, get some good strong growth in the tree this summer. And yeah, I'll be revisiting those scars, maybe scarring it up even more in the future. But first I've got to let this tree regain vigor, grow, and recover. The colorful jades that I got at the 1KW meeting, someone brought in some plants to give away for free, so I took them. I gave away lots of cuttings off this so far. But yeah, really colorful with the pink and the yellows. I'm quite pleased. So I started a bunch of cuttings. So I think the goal is to eventually make a forest of those. I have some of these cuttings off of this tree in there also. They'll eventually come out, so it'll just be the one species. My Australian bottle tree here, I think it's a Queensland bottle tree. The base is getting quite a bit bigger. I believe that's what it is. I've looked in books and the leaf shape seems to match the Queensland bottle tree from the identification guides I've seen. Yeah, it's doing quite well. My euphorbia here, the one they nicknamed Killer, it's doing quite well. It's got new growth coming on top. It's starting to get a few branches off of these main leaves. I had a lot of the original leaves die off over the winter, and the trunk is still very tapered. It goes from skinny at the base to thicker up top. But that reverses with time. Eventually they get a normal kind of looking tree trunk on them. But yeah, it's starting to grow well. In the polyhouse here, I have my jade forest that I am working on restoring. All the trees in this forest died except for the main tree here, the biggest tree. And so I took a bunch of cuttings off the biggest tree and planted them to create a forest once again. And it's looking really good. The growth is really nice, green and healthy looking on it. I do need to weed the planting, but other than that, it's looking really, really good. Here's an update to my Frank Yee corkbark Portulacaria afra cuttings. So you can see they're growing really well. The trunks are thickening up. I'm not seeing any corking of the bark yet. They just look like regular Portulacaria afras at the moment, but maybe that'll change in the future. I don't know. I've got another Portulacaria afra here. This is, it has a sort of a wavy leaf, and the leaf is, it's not variegated, but it's a lighter green color, almost like a pea color. It's doing really well. I've got 2 of them growing in there. Over here I have a whole bunch of cuttings off of my Portulacaria afra force, the one I'm growing in the baobab style. And these are just backups in case some of the trees in that planting were to die. They're just backups. I could probably give them away. Over here I've got my tiger aloe. They're getting taller. They're looking good. All of the pups I planted are alive except I think this one maybe died. But all the rest are doing well. I have another Portulacaria afra over here, and this is a variegated one. And you can see some of the leaves are almost white on it, or very light yellow. But most of them have some kind of variegation in them. And it's also growing well. So all these Portulacaria afras, I haven't really touched them as far as styling. I'm just letting them grow, and I think I could repot some of them this year and maybe prune them down a bit. So that'll be coming up over the summer. Over here is my other crown of thorns, the one I pruned the top off, hoping to get some branching coming out. But instead of branching, it just suckered up from the base. So now I have, I don't even know if this trunk is alive. It's still firm. You can see it's flowering down here. Yeah, so I don't think the large leaf variety responds to pruning very well. And people have told me that in the comments, that they don't like to be pruned. Yeah, and here's all my mini trees. Getting some new smaller leaves on these Lilliput Portulacaria afras. They're kind of cool. Very, very miniature. My jade forest that I'm keeping small is looking good. It's filling in nicely. It's a very small jade forest. There's a leaf that must have fallen off one of the other types of jades that's fallen in there. I'll have to pick that out. My Socotra Island planting was a total disaster this winter. So what happened was I wasn't watering it, and that kind of kept the desert rose happy. I did start to get a bit of rot at the front here. So I even stopped misting it. I just let it go dry. And that was good for the desert rose. 2 of them lived, the smallest one and the biggest one, and 3 of the in-between sizes just collapsed and died. There was just like a shell of them left, and so I pulled those out, and you can see the pockets in the soil there. The aloe did well, and some of these rat-tailed jades survived, but all the Portulacaria afra didn't like the dry winter. So they all died. There might be one that is still alive here, but basically it all died. And my jades back here died. Yeah, it was. So the problem is, you know, to keep it dry enough for the desert rose, everything else died. And if I keep everything else alive, the desert rose dies. So I need to find, if I want to grow desert rose, I need a less humid room to overwinter them than the plant room. And the basement's too cold. So I don't know, other than like a sunny window in the house, it's the only thing I can think where I could overwinter desert rose. I have a terrible time with desert rose. I kill almost every one. So I am planning on rebuilding this Socotra Island planting, and I may not use desert rose. I might replace the desert rose with jades. Try and get something that does well in my conditions so I can put this in the basement, the cool basement for the winter, and everything will survive. Jades will do that, Portulacaria afra will do that, aloes will do that, just not the desert rose. So that'll be coming up also. I still have some work to do on my slideshow presentation for tonight's meeting on succulents. So I'm going to head into the house and work on that now. So that's all for today and yesterday. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.